Hello,
Hi.
my name is Allison. I identify as Roman Catholic. This is my good friend Sam.
Hi, I'm Samantha. I identify as Jewish American, Jewish. I do not personally. I don't practice my faith that much. I do the high holidays, but I'm not one to go to temple every week. I did Hebrew school for a few years, but that was about it. So I personally haven't had anything that really affected it. The closest thing would be not being able to go home for the holidays sometimes because I have classes.
With that in mind, is there anything Maris could do at all to improve that experience, to make it easier for you to celebrate those holidays, or?
I don't think there's much they can do. I know a lot of the times it's up to the professor if we had classes off, and I know that there becomes a discussion of once you take time off for this holiday, but then you have to do this holiday and this holiday, and then you just are never in school.
Yeah.
I know that became a big conversation in my high school, in my school district, and we started to notice it the past few years before I graduated. So,
Have you had instances where you felt professors have been very accommodating to you, on a spiritual basis, or not really?
not really, and not because they weren't. It was more there was never a reason for it to come up to begin with.
Okay.
I mean, what you do with your religion as your religion, for a lot of people, is a big part of their identity. It's a big part of how they connect to family, friends, the world, how they feel about themselves. So if you have something inhibiting you from being able to practice what makes you feel like you, or what makes you have connections with people, I think that's just an awful thing to have happen to you.
Do you think employers typically favor Christian-centric policies, such as giving Christmas off but not allowing Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah off, or maybe providing accommodations in Ramadan if you were Muslim? What's your take on that?
Absolutely. I think there's definitely a difference between a lot of very common Christian religions,
Right.
and then a lot of other not as practiced religions. And there are some Jewish holidays that line up somewhat equally with Christian holidays. So then we're like, oh, nice, we have it off. But I think a lot of it does become whatever the majority is, and I think to some extent, as annoying as it is, there's a reason that's the majority, and that's what happens. And I think people just have to be more aware that.
And I know your father is a middle school teacher, so has this disparity in giving off certain religions ever affected your family's ability to practice the religion?
Not in a drastic way, no. We just sometimes have a late night or every once in a while, we were pulled out of school an hour or so early to try to beat the traffic to go all the way from New Jersey to Long Island. So, for myself, I have been very lucky. I haven't noticed, against myself personally, nothing has changed for me.
Okay.
As a Jewish person, I should connect with them, but then again, I am seeing all of this backlash on Jewish people. But I think a big thing that a lot of people don't understand, and I'm not saying I fully understand it, but I think what a lot of people have to do is separate the Israeli government from people who are Jewish.
Yeah.
And I think that is a big problem.
Yeah. And so I feel, in my opinion, that a lot of this debate gets lost in social media, which can be a very polarizing force. Have you experienced any of those effects? Maybe not firsthand, but maybe have you seen any of those effects?
It was really interesting to see from, I like to say, a sideline perspective of not saying anything, not doing anything for either side, where at the very beginning, when the first event happened in October, this tragic event happened in Israel. Very I would say not pro-Israel, but pro-Jewish religion, pro-Jewish identity. And then more recently and more consistency, I've seen a lot more anti-Israel stuff. And again, I try not to look at either side of it because the idea of this freaks me out a little bit. So I kind of like just removed myself from it, but I've definitely seen a switch on social media, which I thought was interesting.
And so my follow-up to that would be, how has any conversations within your family or like your local religious community, how has that impacted your outlook on this event?
We had a very big discussion, grandparents, aunt, uncles, parents, and it was very interesting to see the difference between what I saw on social media, where at home, where my grandfather especially, also just the perspective of older people who have experienced more than I have. And like I said, I've been very lucky. I haven't experienced any negative things based on my religion.
Right.
But it was very interesting to see their perspective from an older generation.
Thank you so much, Sam, honestly. I know it's a lot of sensitive stuff to talk about, but I really appreciate you sharing your opinion.
Of course, thanks for asking.
Anytime. Thank you.
Yep.